and welcome to the Gnomon Stage. Tonight, we have a really great event that is sponsored by Lenovo and AMD, and I'm super excited about this event because oftentimes Gnomon brings in our alumni and professionals from all around the industry, and they talk about what their first year, or second year, or third year is like, and there's always a very big bridge from the person in real time trying to learn how to be a pro and develop art skills to get to a professional level. And all of these people tonight on stage are Gnomon students that excelled very recently. They're all right into their jobs, in some cases by a week or two. But this isn't like the bring in the grizzled veterans and talk about, their journey and you're like, oh, that doesn't really relate to me, So whether you're a current student at Gnomon, a student in another school, or an amateur just like pushing your path forward and trying to like get to a point where you're doing art professionally, this is really an event for you. And like for me, I think that's really great to just connect with people on that journey. Because I know for me, when I was a student, when they would bring in pros, it was always like, well, yeah, you had it different though. Like you're old and it was easier for you. You don't understand my struggles. But these people are people that are sitting in the classroom with many of the people in this audience. And shout out to the audience, it's huge tonight. So it's like a packed house, so it's very awesome to see all of you guys here. So without any more delay, I wanna introduce everybody up on stage, and I got my notes here so I don't mess anybody's name up, but I'm gonna mess everybody's name up. So at the end, we have Kris Yu. Kris is a environment artist, right? Currently at Blizzard, I believe.
Yep.
Right? We have next to her Caleb Moore. Caleb is a technical artist for games. Then we have Jillian. Sorry, I'm gonna do my best here. I know it's not a hard name, but I've never heard anybody say it. Ubando?
Ubando.
Ubando?
Ubando.
Ubando.
Yeah.
All right, there we go. We got it. We're live on the internet. All right, so next we have David Eisenstadt.
Close enough.
Close enough. I'm sorry. I didn't even know your name had that many T's in it when I first, when I wrote your email, I was like, oh my God, he's got lots of T's. I've been saying that wrong for 2 years. And you are currently a look development artist.
I am.
And I didn't tell anybody else in studios, and I apologize, but I'll let you guys do that when you bring your reels up. How about that? Then next we have Ethan Clark. Ethan is a CG generalist. And last but not least, we have Dakota Smith, and he's an effects artist. So not only are all these people Gnomon graduates from very recently, but they all, when I picked the people, there were so many people, some of which might be in this room, some of them are watching online, maybe some of them don't even know this is happening. But there were so many people that I wanted to bring up here, but I specifically chose these 6 people because they have such an eclectic range of skills. There's nobody up here that kind of like parallels any one other person. So we could have a panel, and you guys all know from your classmates and the people in the audience, that we could have a panel of 6 amazing character artists up here, but I wanted to have somebody who had like a different approach to each little thing that they're doing. So with that being said, I'm gonna start with you, Kris, if you don't mind. We're just gonna work our way down from left to right. So I'm gonna pull up your link, and then the mic's on you.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. So hello everybody, my name is Kris. You can see this my ArtStation page up there. I'm a full-time associate environment artist at Blizzard Entertainment, especially in the Diablo team. That's my shirt, if you can see that. So so I graduated like last September, and I started working as soon as in October. So this is my 5th or 6th month working at Blizzard, and I'm really excited about the launch of Diablo 4. So yeah, nice to meet you all. Should I talk? Yeah.
You want that?
Yeah. So today I'm here. I want to share my experience about the Rookie Awards. Some of you may know or may not know, I was the Rookie of the Year 2022 in the game dev category. So this is going to be my personal talk for the Rookie Awards. I think everybody in here, whether you are just starting at Gnomon or you are approached to your senior year, you should apply for the Rookies. This is a wonderful opportunity, for artists, especially students, to get your names out there. Your work will be seen by the professional people, so definitely take the chance. You can join the contest if you want, like every year. Before there's a limit of 12 months work experience. So as a student, definitely sign up for that. So winning the Rookies definitely helped me a lot. I got my job of winning the Rookies, so this is a big plus for me. If you are an international student, take the chance, because staying in the US is pretty challenging for international students like us. I think another advice I want to give all of you is that you need to start working on your rookie's entry as soon as possible. Even you didn't like finish all your projects, but you can still edit it, the entry if you want. So create one entry, save it as draft, working along with your entry as you polish your work, as you get more new stuff on the page. So I spent 3 months on the rookie's entry, and if you look through all my my exchanges project, I have sorry, go back to the rookie's page. You can just scrolling down. All my presentation, the breakouts, I spent 3 months on this. You can just keep scrolling, Max. So one special comment I got from the recruiters, they said my breakdowns for the projects was really, really good. Some people said, some recruiters said, like all the students, they have really, really good portfolios, but they are lacking of breakdowns. So what I really did good here is the breakdowns. I spent 3 months on this, I put my effort on this, and now those efforts is paying me really, really good. So definitely documenting all of your process as you work with different projects. It's gonna help you a lot, especially you can prepare earlier for demo reel, that kind of stuff. And also, all of these 4 pieces are my student projects. You already know this. But what I would want to say is push all of your work to the best quality if you want. So don't wait until the demo reel is coming up. You need to spend all the time, put all your best qualities in each of your projects. So it's going to be really, really beneficial when you come up to demo reel. And also, if you are new at Gnomon, or you're just going to select your track at term 5, you need to decide which track you really want to go in the future. I think a lot of people, they always came up with the question, hey, I'm not sure which track I really want to go right now. I think you have the time to struggle a little bit, but I think it's the best for you to decide which track, which path you want to go when you come to work. So I know I want to be an environment artist since day one at Gnomon, so I put all my efforts in environment art. That's why my environment looks a little bit more polished. Yeah, that's my other advices I can give to you.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
I have another link for you here. Oh, this is directly to the same page.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah, don't
cool,
worry
cool.
about that.
I just want to make sure we didn't miss out on anything. So I think it's very insightful, and I think there's a couple things that I just want to reiterate from you that you brought to the table. One of them is the importance of kind of being prepared and working through it. And I think it's something a lot of people are scared of when it comes to their portfolio, is they kind of close themselves in and they work really hard in a bubble, and then they want to show people when it's done.
Right.
And you're saying by putting your work out there initially and continue to improve it, continue to update your profile, not only are you getting exposure earlier than everyone else, which is really good for you because more people are seeing your work, voting your work, whatever, but it's also an opportunity for your friends and your teachers and the other people in your community to see what you're doing, provide feedback, and help you get to another level, where when you just do it all yourself and then drop it in at the end, you're like, well, I'm done, but there's nothing more to do here, right? And I think professionally, and this is something you're probably all becoming accustomed to now, is how collaborative this really is. Like the school journey, maybe you have your friends to support you, but when you get into the professional world, your work is kind of being seen every day, right? Looked at and judged, and you're going back and changing and adjusting things, and that's a very big difference than I'm gonna spend 3 months on my own in a room making art. So, and then the second thing that you said, I think is a really good point to reiterate, is this presentation. It's been said a million times by a million people that are much smarter and more articulate than me, but presentation is really the key to success, right? Like chefs do it in garnish, and artists should do it in the way that we lay out our work and show it to people. Because if you present your work, no matter how amazing it is, a good, clean presentation just respects the audience in a way that they feel. They might not be able to articulate that, but they feel that you want them to enjoy that artistic experience of your work, where just an image with nothing is it's cool, but you give it 2 seconds and then you go on to the next image, especially in the world we're in now where we're just flooded with pictures all day long.
Definitely.
So cool, thank you so much, Kris.
Of course.
All right. We got a PowerPoint presentation. Uh-oh. Nah, I don't think you need to sign in to look at it, just to edit it. Okay. So Caleb, you're up next.
Hi, mine is going to be a little different. I did a whole slideshow because I'm being extra.
You're good.
But mine is going to be more focused on just like the journey through Gnomon and through how I got here and what I was doing before Gnomon, what got me into games, because my specific thing is technical art for games. I like to do the art for games, and I like to make it function too. So, make a really beautiful button, make it work when you play the game. That is the thing I am in love with doing in this industry. And just a quick little introduction to me before I jump into what I do. That's me, I'm Caleb. And if you wanna just know me a bit better before you see my work, my taste is informed by my favorite game, Kingdom Hearts, and my favorite movie, Atlantis from Disney, and I'm a big nerd for those things, which you'll see throughout this. So I just wanna get started on how I started before I came to Gnomon and how I got into this and realized I liked it so much. This is just a quick little timeline. But when I was in high school, like 9th grade, I realized that I really, really liked in Kingdom Hearts when I played it, that there were all these different worlds and all these crazy levels and all these unique things that you could experience, and I was like, I want to do that. I want to make those worlds you can go into and explore and that can like change you and really affect you. And so I took my favorite game, Kingdom Hearts, and started up in Blender and Unreal Engine, and in 2015 made my first little environment. Not good by these standards now. It all looks like clay, there's no textures, but it taught me that it was a really fun thing to do, and I could make a little world and a little level. And so I really liked that, and I posted online, a lot of people responded to it well, so I started making some fan games, which is a little silly, but I started teaching myself Unreal Engine and learned how to do the modeling and texturing and programming and everything, and started making basic fan games, and a lot of YouTubers started downloading it and playing it, and it put me in front of this giant community where people were looking at my games work, and it really excited me because I was like, oh, not only do I like this, but other people like react to it well. And so I continued doing that. You can see in the 2018 one, I really dived into like, at the end of high school, learning how to like make those environments and those textures and everything nicer, combining that with everything else I've been learning about Unreal Engine, and that got me even further because I went to a Kingdom Hearts event and the organizers pulled me aside and gave my artwork to Shinji Hashimoto, the co-creator of Kingdom Hearts, which got me a lot of really cool connections and taught me that like this could work, this is like fun and also good for me. So then I got to Gnomon, and I was like, all right, I'm going to hunker down and I'm going to really work on this stuff. And I got to Gnomon, and I kind of forgot about the coding part just because it wasn't on my mind at the start of Gnomon. But I spent the first half of Gnomon learning Unreal Engine better and learning how to do all the game assets like environments and characters better, and it just continued to reinforce that I had a lot of fun with it. And then we get to demo reel, and before you start the video, okay. Just for context here, and this is a good lesson that you don't have to just like stick with one thing at Gnomon. For all of everything up until demo reel, I was like, I'm gonna be an environment artist for games. But right before demo reel, I took a really good class with a great teacher named Brandon Popovich, Game Creation 4, which reminded me about blueprinting and coding and scripting in Unreal Engine and combining art and like functionality. And I was like, cool, I'm just gonna do that now and I'm gonna do technical art for games. And I did my whole demo reel based on it, and you're gonna see just clips of like 2 games I made in my demo reel. Yeah. Yeah, so I spent my demo reel focusing on this kind of stuff. So I took all of that experience from learning how to make art in Unreal Engine, and then I took all the experience from Game Creation 3 and 4 and how to make it functional. So I spent demo reel making 2 fully fledged games. This isn't all the gameplay. I didn't want to make you sit through too much. This is just my demo reel. But I wanted to make 2 projects that showed a realistic style and a stylized style and different kinds of gameplay. So this one's more like crafting and building and dialogue and quests, and the first one was more like environmental storytelling and exploration and like RPG type stuff. But I'll wait until this is over.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Is this done in Unreal Engine 4 or 5?
4.
Nice. How long did you spend on those 2 projects?
2 terms,
Oh,
20
wow.
weeks. So it's kind of all I did for 2 terms. But so that's what I ended up doing at the end of Gnomon and realizing that that's what I wanted to do for my job and doing technical art. But and I'll tie this all together. Another important thing is that I had work outside of Gnomon. I was learning all these things at Gnomon, and I was really enjoying it, but I needed something that I'm passionate about outside of Gnomon to keep me like happy and keep me interested, so it's not just tied to my homework but my own stuff. So I used everything I was learning in game creation 3 and 4 and demo reel, and continued my Kingdom Hearts work and did a lot of modding and like community stuff that got a lot of like articles written about it and a lot of attention and downloads. And this is just, we don't have to sit through the whole thing, but a little snippet of it if you want to play it. But I was able to use everything I was learning at Gnomon to take Kingdom Hearts 3 and mod in and inject my own content, so all new worlds and levels and gameplay and enemies and stuff. And it was a really cool way to use what I was doing at Gnomon and continue to learn and like push it in Unreal Engine out of school. You can skip later in the video if you want, it's long. A little longer, or a little later. But yeah, so just taking everything I was learning at school to inject my own art and work into the games and like content that I really enjoy, and that was a really good way to practice. And also got me a lot of connections and a lot of help. This is just like exploration and stuff, but that was just to illustrate, so you can move on to the next thing. And so what did I learn from all this, and why did I just tell you all this? 4 main things, even though there's a lot more I could say about my journey through. One key point is that homework in class should not be your whole life. It's not a way to stay happy, at least for me. I know that some people can work just 24/7, but I needed things outside of school to practice what I was doing that made me happy, and it wasn't for a class, it wasn't for homework or a grade. It was something that made me happy, so that I could take a break and do that and practice and continue doing better, but then also come back to my homework kind of refreshed and in a good mood and like ready to keep doing that. And that helped me get through all of the classes that were hard and a lot of things that were harder because I had a side passion thing. And kind of tied to that, just having something outside of school and the work and anything we're doing at Gnomon, just to keep you inspired and happy and like to give you life experiences. Do things with your friends, take a break, take a day off, have another hobby, writing, music, anything else you want to do. For me at least, when my entire life is tied to one thing like Gnomon or like my classes, there's just nothing to draw inspiration or happiness from when I'm working or things to recharge me. And I would not have graduated and I would not have done all of this stuff without something else to do with my life. And point 3 is basically that, just work-life balance and realizing that sometimes maybe you, and not like during finals, but like maybe just take a day off and hang out with your friends, go see a movie, take a hike, or just like sit in your bed all day so that the next day you can come back to it and just feel better and more ready to work a longer day because you had a break and you have like happiness. And then my last thing, this was a hard thing for me throughout Gnomon because when I started doing the game coding and the blueprinting and the logic and just the technical art, I found myself comparing to myself to other people around me because I didn't have pretty renders, I didn't have these great reels or anything. I had this gameplay that you had to sit down and play it for 5-10 minutes to understand it, and then people were impressed, but people don't really have that time, so I always felt bad that like I would walk around and no one had seen my art and I wasn't winning best of term or any of these things because it was a different kind of art, and I beat myself up for that. But I realized at some point, no, my stuff is cool, it's just not the same as everyone else around me, and I can't compare myself to everyone else around me. So those were my 4 key takeaways from all of this stuff that I've taken you through. Other just like loose advice, take care of yourself at Gnomon. Finals is really stressful. You can forget to shower or brush your teeth or like take care of your body or like talk to friends. Do that. That's how you stay happy. And yeah. So.
Awesome. Thank you. So thanks for all that. And it's a lot of good points. I mean, the mental health work-life balance thing is huge because you can't make huge strides and grow if you're miserable the whole time, right? So, and really this should be fun, right? Like making art and learning these skills and like taking all that curiosity that you had when you were in high school and like being able to like push yourself towards a career is like the goal, right? But then we get so caught up in the competition and we get so caught up in, you know, showing off in a class or like doing work that's at the highest level that we forget that we're supposed to enjoy all of this. And so I think it's a really, really good point as well. Probably the most important point, honestly, because we'll talk about skills, you know, study composition or storytelling is important or whatever, but like really if you're not having fun, then why do it? And I think that something that like a lot of maybe even some of the students that are here or amateurs that are out there don't really realize about this is that doing this isn't a situation of talent. It's a situation of dedication and time spent and you know, building a nice community around yourself to help you get over the hurdles. And if we take that pressure on ourselves to put in that much time and that much effort, and oftentimes to learn obscure topics, amorphous things, be inspired, and then the technical side of things as well, which can be difficult if you're a visual storyteller. We need to back up sometimes and just go like, hey, dude, I'm curious, what does this software do? Can I make cool stuff in it? And then just put in the time and things will work out. But yeah, if you're out there struggling and you're in your journey, just remember that like this should be fun. One thing that my students hear all the time is, and I know some of you guys have heard this before, which is like nobody dies if you make shitty art. Right? Like, so the beautiful part about being a professional artist is that all we have to do is like sit down, be self-critical, be curious, work hard, be uncomfortable a little bit, and then push ourselves, and eventually all that hard work pays off. And then the last thing I want to say about your work in general, because I think it's also a really important topic that you made, is that when you're trying to get into the professional world, you're looking at all the professional work and you're going like, well, this is what these people are doing, right? But it takes an entire army to make a game and to like build this. And there are people that are massively specialized, some people that just do tech, some people that are very, very artistic, people that are kind of like sit in the gray area in between who are artistic with a little bit of tech, very techy with a little bit of art. And if you enjoy doing something and you're being honest with yourself and you're putting in the effort and pushing yourself to put out a good result, there's probably a space for you professionally. So it's really about the quality and the journey. It's not necessarily about assimilating to what everyone else is doing. And so I think it's cool to see, something where it's like you're pouring all your heart and soul into these like systems that most people would like overlook and be like, oh yeah, you could pick up that backpack, but just it's a really good backpack, let's leave it there. But to go through that effort to make that experience interactive and really follow through is like really huge. And I think it should be something that everybody in here sees. Like if you're in the character world, something that my character students have been hearing from me for years is like, throw a cluster in the chest and make it look like it's breathing. Like, have the eyes look at the camera when the turntable's moving. Just like bring some life and story into what you're doing. And like, I think it's one of the really beautiful things about your work is like, even though you might not feel you hit the aesthetic level that some other people met, your worlds are so alive and interactive. And that's obviously like what your passion was. And I think that's huge and cool. And I think it's inspiring to everybody else to see like, it's not that much more work to take that static thing that you made and bring it to life.
Yeah.
And the payoff is huge.
Yeah, thank you so much. And if anyone specifically wants to be doing that stuff, best class I've ever taken for it was Game Creation 4 with Brandon Popovich. Taught me everything about it. If you want to do that stuff, take that class.
There you go. Cool. And I think you're allowed to say that because you're not a current student. So all right. Awesome. Jillian, you ready?
Yeah.
All right. Let me pull your stuff up. You want presentation or video?
Yeah, the presentation first,
right.
please.
Oh, thank you.
We're already at the end.
Sorry.
Short presentation you got there.
Oh, you could just go to the next one.
You guys, you had to switch programs on me, huh? You know where the full screen is? Okay, there we go. All right, it's your show.
So hi, I'm Jill. You can hit the next slide, please. Yeah, so I'm Jill. I'm a CG generalist. I'm currently booked at Elastic, so I'm doing a commercial there, and then I'm moving to Edgelord, which is a startup founded by Harmony Korine. If you guys watch Spring Breakers or Kids, he wrote and directed both of those. So really excited to go there. They're shipping me to Miami next week, so I'll be doing more like kind of commercial design work. That's pretty much what I've been doing since I graduated. Elastic, they're known for doing the main title for The Last of Us, and at Edgelord, I just did the Skims campaign, which I'll talk more about later. Next one. Okay, so for Showcase, I was just going to show my reel. My link should be right under there.
Okay. So right here or down here?
Oh, like on the desktop. yeah, that was my reel. I kind of leaned into Unreal really late into my Gnomon career. So basically one term, I think it was like term 5, I was like, or term 6, I just wanted to learn Unreal just to know it, and then I fell in love with it. So now like most of my projects in my reel are in Unreal, and I've basically been like swapping classes for Unreal ever since. And for 3 of my Unreal projects, I won Best of Term, so texturing and shading for that baking cupcake scene, and then exterior environment for like the kind of castle, high fantasy one, and then game environment for the Bradbury building, which is a building I love. It's in downtown LA, so you can actually go inside it. And yeah, most of my approach is typically photorealistic, but I do have like some fantasy pieces in there. So in terms of professional work, this is what I've been doing basically since graduating or my last term. So the James Cameron one was in my last term, and basically I was tasked with creating the 3D content for his exhibit at the Natural History Museum. So it was celebrating like the 10th anniversary of his trip to the Mariana Trench, and it was really cool because I got to bring in a friend at Gnomon. Shout out Hassan. He was basically like the tech artist on it and helped me like loads, because it was for like the stereoscopic LED volume, which I had no idea like how to prepare things for. So if you got to see it in person, you could throw on like these 3D glasses and the fish would kind of like swim in front of you and whatnot. But another like shout out to Miguel Ortega, because he actually hooked me up with this gig. They asked him to do it, and you know, he's a very busy man with all of his insanely successful films. So him and his fiancée Tran, they decided to pass it off to me, and I'm obviously very grateful for their mentorship and also this gig. And then, so my first like post-grad work was for Skims. So it's Kim Kardashian's like underwear, swim, just overall clothing brand, and I did the lighting and look dev for it. So the idea was her and her models fly to Miami, they get shot by Harmony, and then we stick these alien heads on them, and we get cute little lines like, oh, the swimwear, that's out of this world, and whatnot. So that was a super fun project. Both projects were like insanely, kind of like, not rushed, because that sounds kind of negative, but they were pretty short, like three weeks-ish. And then my most recent one I can't really talk about because it's a commercial, but this one was done at Elastic, and I'm still doing lighting and look dev. I do it in V-Ray now, but my first project was like the environment in Unreal. And then, so my journey, I kind of don't have like art to share, because I would feel like my art journey really started at Gnomon. I actually was a neuroscience major before this. I went to UCLA and got my BS in neuroscience, and I've always wanted to do art. I actually went to UCLA hoping to do art, but then I got there and realized I couldn't switch into the film school once I got in. So I kind of just picked neuroscience, went through with it, and then graduated. And then I was studying for my master's in speech-language pathology when my sister, weird coincidence, she married a guy in the industry, and then he just saw me like always doodling on my iPad, like still keeping that kind of like digital art dream alive, and he convinced me to go like full force into CG, and he was like, you have to go to Gnomon. Like Gnomon's the only school you're like allowed to go to. So I whipped together a portfolio, and now I'm here, and I really have not looked back. I think this was like absolutely meant for me, and I'm really thankful to Gnomon for giving me a chance also, because I didn't have any CG experience before coming here, but I don't know what they saw in me, but very, very happy to be here. So that was mainly my journey, and what I got out of coming to Gnomon, or some tips I'd like to share, is basically like you get out what you put in. I didn't come here with any like art background. I never took an art class, not even 2D. But I think if you really take advantage of the kind of like the teaching that is here, then you will succeed. And along with that, I want to say like always put your best foot forward, because you never know who's looking. And I kind of like that advice was given to me when I started at Gnomon, actually in Max's class. I remember he said very sternly, like, your interview starts now, because the instructors are going to be the ones that could potentially help you get a job. And for me, like, that couldn't ring more true. So, like, I think if you can, you know, demonstrate your capabilities to these industry professionals, and they're like super well-renowned and well-respected professionals at that, then you can leave here with the best mentors and references that you can possibly have. And secondly, I'd say remember to take breaks, because for me, it was always like if I try to work on something in a bad mindset, it would take me like 3-4 times as long to get it done than if I just like took care of myself, went outside, took a walk, came back, or even started on something the next day if that was possible, and then I get it done in like an hour or something. So I feel like always do things like on your own time when you're ready. It's like, it's not really a race, you know? And thirdly, stay open to learning. That's something that's like very apparent to me now because I like started in the industry, and you know, once you leave here, you're still a student and you should still be open to learning. Because I feel like, you know, when you're in school, you're thinking, how can I make this piece of art? But when you're working alongside these like veterans, you're kind of more like, how do I make this art? But also, how do I seamlessly, you know, slot yourself into this pipeline? It's not you controlling like the whole thing. It's you being like collaborative. So you have to like learn how each studio works and be adaptable. Yeah. Cool. Thank you.
We're back. Awesome. Thank you so much for that. Again, you guys are so screwed because by the time you get to the end, like all the good advice is gone, and you're just gonna be like, peanut butter and jellies are good sandwiches. You know, but no, that was all really, really great, and I think some really, really poignant advice, and also a really hard flex on being like a neuroscientist or something. Like, yeah, I just got tired of knowing how the brain works, so I decided to go be an artist. No, it was really, really cool to see your work and to hear about your journey throughout. And I think that something that you said that's kind of like repeated to other people, but you kind of, you know, pitched on another point was the constant evolution of your skill set, right? And earlier I said something to the extent of like curiosity, like staying curious, and I think that that's like kind of, you said it more in a more articulate way than I did, but you know, growing with the tools, like putting yourself out there, trying to develop those skills. Like, yeah, you're in a class and your teacher's showing you like the absolute most important aspect of 3 hours that they have with you to get a result. But there's so much more, like both creativity and with learning other techniques and kind of adapting and being a problem solver. So it's like there's no end to this journey, I guess, is kind of what you said. When you get out, Gnomon is teaching you how to be a certain level of awesome. But then you have to go much, much further than that, right? And continue to grow and kind of feed the beast, and not be scared to like put yourself out there, learn new techniques, new tools, whether it's the technical stuff that Caleb mentioned earlier, or it's adapting to a different like tool, whatever that might be, or pipeline, or it's simply doing what all of you guys have said, which is like kind of being true to yourself and just making your own art, right? Like, it's okay to sit down and just do some stuff because it's there, right? Like, because you want to try. And that's something as a student you don't often have a lot of time for. It's very hard and difficult to be staring down 6 classes and be like, oh, I'm just going to do my own stuff. But when you get out, you now have that opportunity, right, to experiment and play with tools and do things. So whether it's from a professional level, I guess what I want to tack on to what you said is whether it's a professional level or it's your individual like art creative pursuits, it's really important just to like never stop learning and growing and like trying out new stuff, because you never know what you might land. We had a talk, and this is, I'm not going to derail too much. You guys know that I love to do that. But we had a talk just on, I believe it was last Friday night, with Jason Michael Hall, and he did like a music video using like just whatever he could get his hands on. It was a very, really, really cool music video for like AWOL Nation, and it's on the website if you guys want to watch the presentation. But that's the thing, is like he's a professional, previous guy with tons of experience, and he's got his day job, but he's doing this stuff at home. Just because he's like, I'm going to make a music video for this song that I made, and it's going to be cool, and then people see it, and they go, we want to pay you to do that for us. And it's not necessarily what Blizzard is paying him to do when he's pre-visiting at work, right? But it's that growth and that hunger to like tell your story and learn new stuff and not be scared to fail a little bit. I think it's a really good message, and cool, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. David, how are you? I'm not going to say your last name. I already did that once.
Hi, I'm David Eisenstadt.
That's how you say it.
I have the pleasure of knowing most of you already, but for those of you that I don't know already, hello, nice to meet you. I am a look development artist at DreamWorks. I work with that one, but he'll get to that later. Spoiler alert. I think that there's there are so many parts of what we do, there's so many facets to possibly give advice on that it's hard to give advice without talking to each one of you individually, because there is no advice that applies to everybody. I think that confidently. So I'm really just going to go through what I did, and hopefully you'll be able to take something away from that. I'm showing this first because I think most of you probably haven't seen any of this before, which is why I'm showing it, because you've seen all the things I've made at Gnomon, because I made them here. But this stuff is stuff I made before I even knew what Gnomon was. Clearly, I was not doing CG. I was drawing my face on a bagel. But I always knew I wanted to go into animation. Since I was 5 years old, when people said, hey, what do you want to do? I said, I want to be a character animator, which is not usually what a 5-year-old says. Before that, I said flute player, but I didn't know what a flute was. But that's irrelevant. So up until I was about 13, I would draw all the time, do little flip books and whatnot. But then when I was 13, I actually started looking into what I had to do to get there. And I think that's important, so I'm going to speckle in little pieces of advice as I think of them. When you figure out what you want to do, you can't just say that you want to do it. You have to actually look into how to do it. So I started looking into how to do it, and I just started practicing drawing. And so, not quite yet.
I thought that was the signal.
That's my bad. So when I was 15, when I was 15, I learned about the California State Summer School for the Arts, which is a high school summer art school. And you apply, and I got in as a month-long thing, and I made The Bird Painter, which is a little short film. I'm not going to show it right now, but if you want to look it up, that's it. It's on YouTube. It's cool. And while I was there, it was at Cal Arts, which is where I really, really wanted to go to school. I didn't go to school there. But while I was at CSA, California State Summer School for the Arts, I met an artist named Karen Albala, who is a previs artist for Marvel. And I was like, that's kind of closer to what I want to do. That's not life drawing, because I found out while there that you had to do a ton of life drawing to get into Cal Arts. And I was like, that's not what I want to do right now. And so I asked her, I said, how do you learn how to do the 3D stuff? And she gave me a list of schools, and one of which was Gnomon. And I said, yeah, that one. I'll go there. That looks super cool. And so I reached out to Gnomon. I was like, hello, how do I go to your school? And super weird. I don't know if they've done this since then, but they had a San Francisco traveling open house right around the time that I started looking into it, which was wild and very fortunate. So I went to there and watched the presentation. I said, yes, this is definitely where I'm going to go. Okay, now I'm ready. Cool. And I met Hannah Webb, who is unfortunately not here anymore, but she was one of the admissions advisors. And one of the things that she said, and I don't know if anybody here isn't already a student, but if you're not, talk to the admissions advisors, because they want you to go here, and they will help you to go here, which is why I did all of this stuff. All of this work is the work I did pre-Gnomon, post-learning about Gnomon. You'll notice, laser chicken, not something that I would have done beforehand, but I thought, hey, this looks like something that I might see in one of those really cool reels. So I did a bunch of this. But as you'll notice, still no 3D, because I didn't know any 3D before I started at Gnomon. I hope that's encouraging to somebody, because I was very scared. I was scared because not so much the fact that I was entirely unaware of anything about it and was going to have to learn it from scratch, because we can all do that. I was scared I wasn't going to like it, because I never tried it. And fortunately, I like it. But another advice, do the things you like. Do the things you don't like too, but do it to figure out whether or not you don't like it for real. Because you can think you don't like something and then do it a little more and then realize you actually like it, or realize that you actually don't like it. Both of which are good things to realize. So I did all this, talked to the admissions advisors. I got in right after high school, which was really fortunate. A lot of these things that I ran into on my way here were just very fortunate. So I did all this, got in, I started 3 months after I graduated high school, and we can move on. And then I made this right off the bat. Okay, no, that isn't true. But you've probably seen this before. What I did make right off the bat was this. I'm sure lots of you recognize these. They're super fun. They were super fun. When I made that shiny sphere right there in the middle left, or middle right, I was like, oh, it's so cool. It's shiny. And then a week later, I was like, oh, okay, I get it. I understand how these little wires work. And then I made that shiny little disco ball up in the top right. And I was like, oh, cool. And so what I'm getting at here is it's good to be excited about stuff and just like try stuff. That bottom right, bottom left, that one I was super proud of because I was like, okay, wait, there's so many possibilities. I get it now. This is so cool. And be excited. Try things that you don't know how to do. That's a big one. I want to drive that one home. Don't not do things that you don't know how to do. Do things that you don't know how to do. Do things that you don't know how to do, because the only way to know how to do those things that you don't know how to do is to do them. If you,
We'll recap all of that.
We'll loop back around.
There's a lot of genius in there, but we have to unpack it for everybody.
The point that I'm getting at is don't hesitate to do things because you don't know how to do them. If you try it and get halfway through, you got further than you would have if you didn't try it at all. So be overambitious, because being overambitious will get you further than if you were, little ambitious, mini ambitious. Carry on. These are pieces that I'm, to this day, proud of. I like them. You probably haven't seen most of these either because they didn't get attention. And that's totally cool because it doesn't matter. Things will get attention, things won't get attention. But make them anyway. Make them until you're proud of them, because I'm proud of these, and you probably still haven't seen most of them. That one on the bottom right is my Intro to Maya midterm. I was very proud of it. Max helped me with it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And that was wild because that's 3D try number one, like big scene. And I was like, whoa, look at all this stuff we can do. This is crazy. And I don't know if this is true for everybody. This is one of those advice things that I was mentioning, but I think that the learning curve with physical drawing or painting and whatnot takes longer to make the quality that 3D does. You can learn 3D and how to make something that looks really cool really fast, and that's amazing. The part after that sort of wavers is how quickly you ramp up the quality beyond that initial point. That's where the effort comes in, but it's worth it. It's so fun. And so, Intro to Maya, texture 2, Tran Ma. Tran Ma is great. Shout out to Tran Ma. And on top of that, I didn't include this. I should have included this. If you go find my Instagram later and scour the bottom, you'll see that one. You'll see it, but in a worse state. That's important to look at. I should have included it. I wish I had included it, because this is a very specific piece of advice that I understand doesn't really apply to everyone, but I'm going to say it anyway. Please learn Nuke, because Nuke is so cool. It doesn't matter if you're in games, learn it anyway, because it will make your stuff look so cool. This piece looked so much worse before I put it into Nuke. Learn Nuke. End of my not sponsored Nuke advertisement. These others, I won't take much time talking about, but to reiterate, you don't have to get attention for your work to feel proud of it. You shouldn't have to get attention for your work to feel proud of it. These ones are ones that you probably do recognize. And I could talk about them all for a really long time, so I won't. But later, I think there's a Q&A, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to. But the reason you recognize all of these is because I did get attention for them. And I think the reason I got attention for so many of them is because every time I had a class where there was a project, I treated the project like I was going to put it in my demo reel. I didn't put all of them in my demo reel, but if you treat every project like you're going to put it in your demo reel, it will be better than if you didn't treat it like you were going to put it in your demo reel. It doesn't matter if you finish it and don't like it, because if you finished it with the mindset that it was going to be something that you showed to people you're going to get hired by, it will probably turn out better. So don't get assigned a project and think, this isn't really something I care about. Even if you don't care about it, make it as good as you possibly can, because then you'll feel proud of it and have another thing to show people in settings like this. And I think that might actually be my last slide. Oh no, this one. I have 2 more. Hooray. When you graduate, you're gonna not want to do anything. I don't mean to be a downer, but it's true. I didn't think it was gonna be true. I was term 8, term 9. I was like, I'm gonna graduate. This is awesome. This is so fun. I'm gonna be doing this forever. I graduated. I was like, oh my God. So tired. But it's okay, because that happens. You've been doing this for 2 years, 3 years straight. It's tiring. Secret tip, if you want to force yourself to keep working after you graduate, do a group project.
That's true. I'm working on a group project with my friends. That's the
group
only thing
project.
keep me working out of work. So group project, yes.
Group project, because when other people are counting on you, you feel guilty for not doing it.
Definitely, yeah.
Which, now that I say out loud, guilt is not a good motivator to make art. But if it's something that you were doing already, that you had some passion about, then you're probably going to continue to have passion about it, and that guilt will just be a little kick to keep you going. This is one of those examples that I made with Ethan and Alina and Rain. So cheers to the group. But yeah, if you do a group project, you will continue to make things. And once you are done with all of those other things, you can do these. You'll notice these aren't 3D. You'll also notice they're mostly just like triangles and circles. It's so fun. And it's what I want to do right now, which feels so silly. I post these on my Instagram, and I scroll down a little bit, and I see pieces like these from 2 slides ago, and I'm looking at them together. I'm like, wow. It's barely been more than a month since I graduated. Look at me now. So, to wrap up all of that, I don't really know that I gave a whole lot of advice. I hope that some of my rambling meant something to some of you. But essentially what I'm getting at is, it's really fun. It's so fun. And if you continue to have fun and make things as good as you can because you're liking doing it and you want to see it look cool, everything's gonna look cool. If you have fun making things, they'll look cool. So, go have fun making things. Thanks.
So, never stop stopping is what we figured out. have fun, never stop stopping.
Yes.
There's a lot of great stuff in there. And honestly, like, your journey is really cool. No 3D at all, coming in. Even your 2D is it's a kid. It's like a dedicated, high school kid putting out a portfolio. And to see how far you came in such a short period of time is evident how much you enjoyed it. And I think everybody gets that from you, just like sitting here talking, like, man, this guy loves what he does. He likes creating, he likes telling stories, he likes learning. But there's one thing that you said that I think is like just massively important in all of that. which is this idea of when you're going into learning something new or taking on an art project or whatever it is setting your expectations for yourself really high. Not going in and being like, okay, well, this is the best I can do. And I think that if you shoot really, really far, and you only hit like halfway, it's still much, much better than what you get when you go, I'm just gonna do what I know how to do. And the other one is the idea of not being kind of afraid to fail, I think, which is like kind of summing up a lot of what you were saying. And there's a mentor of mine that I have that has a t-shirt. He's very, very successful. I'm not gonna name drop him in this event, but he's very successful. He has this t-shirt that he wears that just says fail faster. And he wears it through his studio, and he's a guy who's, the guy motivating 100 artists on huge projects, right? And one thing that I learned from him was just the idea that he's like, I don't need to be the best modeler or the best texture artist or the best concept designer or the best character designer. He's like, I just need to fail as fast as I can. Like, get in there, see what the tools can do, make art, and that's it. So he's like, what my success has led me to is I fail faster than anyone else out there. That's why I'm where I'm at. It's not because I'm better than you. It's because I'm just not scared of failure. And I think it's a lot of what you're talking about. It's like getting in there and just digging into a project and setting your sights on something maybe even unachievable, but then being like, well, if I'm gonna go this big, like if I hit 70%, I'm gonna be okay. And I think that's evident in a lot of your work and like the success that you've had in Best of Term and everywhere else that you've put your work out there. So listen to this guy. Even if it takes you watching this video 3 or 4 times, you'll get it eventually. All right, so thank you, David.
Thank you.
All right. All right, Ethan. You got a hard act to follow over there. I hope you got all you got transitions.
Just you wait.
Oh, he won. He just won.
You wait.
Yeah, all right. So I'm gonna let you take the lead.
Sure. So David just talked about how fun it is to make art and how much fun you're gonna have. I'm gonna tell you how miserable it is. No, it's fun, but it's hard. So let's talk about that. So this is the thing I made, but let's look at something else. So speaking of fine art, that's me. Before I talk about art, I'm just gonna do a little who am I. So these are some of my interests and a photo of New Jersey, which is not one of my interests, but it is where I'm from. And people like to remind me of it very frequently, because apparently that's a controversial topic to be from New Jersey. But anyway, I like cartoons and Zelda and Minecraft and all the normal things that kids like. Disney, sure, Pixar. So when I was in high school, I was pretty bad at most of the things that you do in high school. Math was not happening. English was all right. Science was not really happening. So we're running out of options. So art was something that I didn't mess up yet. I wasn't good at it, but it was still like, try it, So on the next slide, I started, do you guys like my transitions? I started trying it. So I graduated high school in 2017. So like junior year of high school, I started drawing, and it's hard. So I wanted to include these pictures because that's the weekend up there. But if you squint, it just looks like nothing. But it's, you gotta try. You gotta start somewhere. So I just did my silly little drawings for a little bit while I was in high school, because again, math and science are not working. So you gotta do something. So I thought maybe art. Like I like cartoons, I like video games. Maybe there is a way I can get into art. But once I graduated high school, I started actually taking it seriously. So I was not like an artistic kid. Like some people like are in like AP art from the age of 4, and they love art, they do it every day, and they're amazing. I just started trying drawing like halfway through high school, and I was not good at it. The point of this is not like, oh my God, look at the deer. It's like I was not good at it. Like this is not good. But then once I graduated high school, I started making like a very intentional effort to get good. So on the next slide is what transitions. What I started doing after high school. So I went to community college for visual arts. At the same time, I was doing a gap year full-time program at a painting studio in New Jersey, where I got really serious really fast, because like once you realize like when you're in high school, you're doing the assignments because someone said to do the assignments. That's you gotta go through that. But once you're in college, like you're there because you want to be there and you're pursuing what you want to pursue. So it's like, why would you not take it the most seriously you can? So as soon as I started going somewhere where it was what I wanted to do, it's like, oh my God, like I have to spend all my time doing this because this is like what matters to me. Like I actually want to do art, so of course I'm gonna take it seriously. And at the time, I was thinking like, I just want to be the best artist I can be. I didn't even know what Gnomon was at this point, but I was like, I'm gonna be the best painter in the world, and I'm going to make a career selling oil paintings of dogs, and this is my life. So I was doing that every day, and I got to a point where I was pretty happy with what I could do. But then I got to the part where my parents were like, so how are you gonna make money with that? I was like, well, but I had someone I knew at the painting studio named Liam Jerkowicz, who went to Gnomon, and he told me about Gnomon, and I didn't know anything about 3D or CG or VFX or any of the fancy acronyms for such things, but I knew that it was somewhere that I could continue learning art in a different way, and in a marketable way, where I could hopefully get a job and continue telling stories. Obviously, CG is very different than oil painting, but I was like, I mean, if I could learn this, I could learn something else, right? So I went from being, I think I was decent at what I was doing, I enjoy painting. I went from being not bad at it to starting 3D for the first time, and I was terrible again. And I was like, this is nonsense. I can't believe I have to learn something new and be bad at it. Because everyone's bad when they start, and that's what I want to nail in by showing these like first 3D attempts. Like this was the portfolio that I got into Gnomon with. And this was just like what I could learn in 3D on my own in my basement. And it looks terrible. It's like, what is that? I got the Blender donuts up there, which you've all done. But the point is, like, when I started doing art in high school, terrible. But I learned to paint, I learned to be better, I learned to draw. When I started doing 3D, terrible. But then once I got into Gnomon, next slide, eventually you learn how to do things, and it's not scary anymore. And now it's scary again, because now I'm starting to work now, and I gotta be bad at things again. But that's just the continuous cycle you go through when you do this. You're always gonna be bad when you're starting. Nobody starts out good. If you do, that's weird. So I guess that's just something that I wanna nail in, that when you're starting, like, of course you're gonna be terrible, like duh. So if you feel like you're looking around and other people in your class, or you think they're doing better than you, like, don't worry about it. Like, everyone starts out being bad, and if you feel like you're not there yet, that's just part of the journey. So these are the pieces I made in my later terms that I'm like the most proud of, but also I included some other stuff too. So,
Is that a segue?
yeah, yes, you're good. My fun transitions once again. And this is some other stuff I did in demo reel, and just like some random earlier pieces at Gnomon that I'm proud of. And I was gonna talk about this one thing, but David said it already. But I'll just say it again. I do think it's really important when you're in your Gnomon classes, and like with everything you do, to push it as far as it can go. If it's intro to Maya or rigging or whatever, like, no offense to the rigging's cool, but like just whatever class you're in, you should like try to take it as far as you can and really go all out with it, because yeah, if you're trying to make finished pieces and you're trying to push it as far as you can, even if it doesn't get where you want it to, you still have something finished that you can show off and you can be proud of and feel like you're making tangible progress. Whereas if you're going through classes but never actually finishing pieces, you're gonna be like term 8 and be like, have I done anything yet? And you have, but it's when you can look back and see the pieces that you've made, even if they don't hold up anymore, you're still proud of them. Like in the bottom left corner is my intro to Maya, and I don't think it holds up. I think it's obviously like an intro to Maya piece, but at the time I was proud of it, and I still am proud of it looking back, because when I was doing it, like I didn't know any 3D besides like my little Blender donut, but I didn't really know anything. So having something you can look back on and be like, I was proud of that when I was making it, and I'm still proud of it now, I feel like helps you keep moving forward. I've got another slide of my random Gnomon. Oh no, I don't. We can watch my demo reel. And this is just I guess I should have started with this. This is my demo reel. Kris is right. Breakdowns are important. So do that. I have more slides. Actually, can we go back a slide? Because I thought of something else to say.
Yeah, whatever you want. I have to just find it.
Take your time.
There you go.
Oh, there was my other art. We'll go back to that later.
We're going this way.
Actually, go forward. And then go back again. I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding. Go forward.
That's it. We're done.
But I can show it with this one too. So like in the top here, before I started Gnomon, it was oil painting. It was, I'm gonna be an oil painter. This is my life. This is my art. And then once I started Gnomon, I was games track BFA. I was games track all the way through, but in the beginning, I was focused on being games track. So in the top, that's a character for games. If you go forward to the next 2 slides. So yeah, in here, there's 2 of these are props and weapons for games. I was taking all the games classes, and I was pretty sure I was going to go into games at that point. And then pretty late into Gnomon, like term 9 or 10, I was like, I think I don't want to go into games anymore. So I kind of had to relearn all the film pipeline rendering stuff. But it was like whatever. It was like if you've learned it once, you've taken Texture 2, you can learn it again. And really, like, I feel like one of the things that Max and Alex and everyone will tell you in the beginning is you're not here to be a software monkey. You know, you're not here to just like learn one program and die for that one program. You're here to be an artist, and you're here to be an artist that can mold yourself into whatever you need to do. So even if I was doing the game stuff in the beginning, or the film stuff later, or when I was painting, like it's always like in an effort to be a better artist. It's not just to be someone that's better at Substance Painter than someone else. It's like you're trying to teach yourself to learn. So that's a takeaway, I think. Even the stuff I did before Gnomon, even the painting stuff, I still think about that all the time. Like when I'm in Nuke or Photoshop, I still think about like the value and color stuff I learned from painting. So every class that you have here, there's things to take away. Even the ones that you don't want to take, even the ones that it's not your focus or you don't care about, there's always things you can take. And yeah, also I just wanted to include some of these because they're older and they're not, like what I was saying before, they don't necessarily hold up to my demo reel standard, but at the time, I was very proud of them. And so I feel like it's just important to have pieces that you're proud of to help you push forward. We don't need to talk about this that much. I just thought I should know. This is, when I was at Gnomon, I got a few best of terms. Near the end, I got an 80 level article published. I got a rookies article published, and then I got finalists for the rookies. And Kris said this in the beginning, but very good opportunity to promote yourself. So everyone should submit for the rookies. And although it's on a different scale, I think that everybody should submit for best of term too. And I know a lot of students, when they're in the earlier terms, are nervous to submit because they feel like they don't have anything or it's not good enough. But it's always good to submit like to everything you can always. Like, you should always be putting your best foot forward with finishing your work in your classes, trying to submit it to whatever you can. Just like don't can I say that? Yeah. Don't half-ass things. Like, if you're gonna do it, like, do it all the way, because you're gonna thank yourself later. Yeah, that's it for this slide. Oh, and here's what I'm doing now. So I graduated in December, and just recently I accepted a job offer at Checkpoint, which is a very small studio, and this is on their website, so it's not NDA or anything. But I'm going to be working on a film starring Quavo. So some people, I guess some claps for that, I guess. And then Billy Zane from Titanic, which my mom was excited about. But I just wanted to include this because that's where I'm working now. So that's that. And this is going to be my takeaways in case I couldn't think of anything to say over the art. But I thought of some things to say, but I can say these anyway. I think one thing that was important about Gnomon for me was thinking that this place it's not just a school you're going to. Like, for while you're here, this is who you are. The Gnomon is your community, it's your support system, it's your home. It's more than just like the place where you do your work. Like, obviously you shouldn't spend 100% of your time here. And I'll say, like, do better than I did. Like, do what I say, not as I do, because I spent 100% of my time here. But I think it is important to treat this sort of like a job where you're coming in on a consistent schedule. You're here, if not every day, then most days, and you're trying to use the facilities to the most they can be. Make AMC appointments, use the labs, use the 50 billion software that are installed here. Talk to your teachers, ask your friends for help. Like, half the things I learned at Gnomon were through asking David for help. Like, use your friends to your advantage, because they know things too, and we all want to help each other and support each other. So, like, don't be a hermit that sits at home and doesn't talk to anyone, because you're just hurting yourself when you're doing that. Don't limit how much you can learn either. So, like, when I was in my second half of Gnomon, and I was in games track classes, but I wanted to go more into film, I had to learn a lot of the film stuff on my own, because I picked the wrong track and I messed up. But that doesn't mean you can't learn these things. Like, I never had a class in Nuke while I was at Gnomon, and now Nuke is like my favorite software. So don't think like, oh, I can't learn that because I don't have a class in it. Like, you can learn whatever you want. Like, do it. There's nothing stopping you. And even if you don't have a class in it, there's Gnomon Workshop, there's AMC, there's almost never an excuse not to make a project because you don't know how. Because you can always teach yourself or have someone help you with making what you want to make. Like, we're here to make the art we want to make. So, like, why wouldn't you? In all of your classes, I feel like the projects that I was the most proud of were the projects that I made because I wanted to make. Like, when you're in Houdini 1, this is like, whatever. But when I was in Houdini 1, the class project is like make an environment. So everyone makes like the Grand Canyon or like the mountains or the forest or whatever. And I was like, that's cool, but what if I made SpongeBob? And that turned out to be one of my favorite projects I ever made at Gnomon, because when you're making art that you want to make, it's going to turn out better than if you're making something that is just like an assignment for the class. Like, if you're injecting your personality and your interests and what you want to do into your work, it's going to leave you with a much better result, and other people are going to be able to tell too. Like, they're going to be able to tell that it's better work, but you'll know it's better work because it's something you actually care about and not just a school assignment. That's about it. Oh, I have a life outside of school, but Caleb talked about that. So, and then the next slide's just like my little,
Your meme.
my little that. So yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Thank you. So a lot of good stuff there, and it was cool to see your journey and kind of, how you went through. And I think that one of the things that's enlightening about what you kind of talked about is, with all of these things that you like pursued, you were kind of trash at them, and you were like, I'm gonna get good.
I still am.
Right? No. I'm talking
Say it to my face.
No, but I'm teasing to the extent where, but it's like one of those things where it's like, you show something in 2015, and then you show something in 2019, and you're not someone who sat down and was like, I want to do art, and then you spent 5 minutes a week telling everybody that you wanted to do art and 3 minutes a week doing it. Mm-hmm. Like, you were someone that was obviously committed to learning and growing and kind of pushed through like the limits of your experiences and just did it. And then the 3D, it's obviously very clear that was the same way you approached this, coming into this with no 3D experience, playing around in some software a little bit before you got here, and then seeing the work that you're doing, which is so high level. especially being that you're like in a completely different like track, right? You're pushing this one direction, and then you're finishing with like these beautiful like kind of feature animation, full CG shots, which is a testament to like the foundations. And that's kind of the thing I want to talk about is like one of the things that I think is the most pertinent thing that's been said on the stage all day is something that you said a minute ago, which was going into your education or your experiences with just this like mentality of like learning it and doing it and just being excited about it, even if it's not your job later, right? It's like, okay, yeah, you're not going to be a rigger necessarily. You're not going to be a compositor. You're not going to be a modeler, but you pick up those skills and you learn things about the tools and you learn things about aesthetics and you learn things about storytelling. And then when it comes down to building your art, you're just dangerous because you have so much experience and so much tools at your disposal. And I think that I can sum this up with something that I say at orientation just to everybody out here, which is like, in my opinion, the stupidest thing that any of us can do is believe we know what we need to know to be successful. And I think a lot of your talk was about not knowing, but then having this like unwavering like mentality of just like, I can do this, I'm gonna do this, I don't care. And then the second piggyback on that is, if you're having fun doing this, like if you're putting yourself into your projects, like you guys have all heard, I don't think you've ever heard it, Ethan, but in class, I say like, pick something that you're interested in because it's going to help you get over like that moment where you're like, I've been doing this for 60 hours and now I'm tired of this. Like no one gives a shit about that particular bathroom, right? But if you find the architecture cool and the materials cool, you're going to persevere through that. Yeah. So what I've always said is there aren't any homework assignments at Gnomon. There's like art projects and you choose to make them into homework assignments.
Absolutely. Like
you've been given this opportunity to make whatever you want, but you've decided I'm going to do this thing because of maybe a lack of foresight, right? I guess, right? Of that you can make any assignment into something truly awesome.
Yeah.
If you just flip the switch in your brain slightly.
Yeah.
And I think that your presentation was awesome for that because people need to hear that kind of stuff. And it's one of those like kind of hidden skills that you see certain people have and other people really struggle with. So thank you so much for that.
Can I add one more thing to that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So can I add 2 more things to that?
Yeah, you go 3 things.
So like,
this is why New Jersey has that reputation.
You're so right. Like I don't. When I was in Houdini 1, like I don't like Houdini. Like it's not fun to me. But I like SpongeBob. So because I'm making a SpongeBob project, Houdini is fun. So like whatever you're doing, yeah, if you make it something you enjoy, then it's not a homework assignment. It's an art project that you're having fun with. And then about like picking up skills while you're in classes, like you should treat Gnomon like a video game. So like it's a Zelda game. And all your classes, you're going to the different dungeons and you're getting items, and you think like, well, maybe I'm not going to use the hook shot, but like you get to the end, you got to use the hook shot. Like you're in AVFX 1 or whatever, and you learn MASH, and you're like, all right, sure. When am I going to use MASH? But then you're in demo reel later, and you use MASH in every single one of your demo reel projects, and you're like, that's why I picked up the hook shot. Like that's why I learned that. So, yeah. Every single one of your classes, like keep picking up tools, and you might not think they're useful, but they will be eventually. And even if they're not, it's good practice for learning.
Awesome. And you double down that on the foundational stuff, right? Like it's not just about the software and the technical stuff, but it's also about being inspired, reading and watching stories and going places and like keeping your creative juices like at the same level that your technical skill set's going on, right? So you have to be inspired and interested, but then also keep your technical skills sharp. But a lot of times when people hear this, like, oh, I need to learn all these tools, right? You mentioned Houdini and Nuke and Substance and a million other softwares along the way. And it's like, but it's not all that. It's also the color theory that you learned before you got here, or your study habits when you were doing UCLA, brain scientist stuff, or your curiosity for learning Unreal because you just were passionate about a certain video game, right? Whatever it is, it's like if you bring that into that stuff too, none of those experiences are lost. And I think that's what a lot of us do is like, you go, I'm games track now, I decide I'm going a different direction. You go, well, I wasted all that time. It's like, you didn't waste any time. You didn't waste time painting. You didn't waste time, doing mods. You didn't waste time in any of your experiences beforehand. But you have to tap into that stuff and like let it feed the rest of what you're doing. So don't run away from whatever your experiences are prior to, and like really, and understand this. I think that one thing that you guys can probably start appreciating now that you guys will also appreciate someday is if you ask any veteran artist in our industry what they're studying, they're going to tell you 100% of the time foundations, like fundamental stuff. Like, oh, I just realized that my composition skills are shit. and you're like, well, wait a minute, do you know every software and you put out like 50 movies, how can your composition be shit? And you're like, because that's the one thing that we always roll back on is like our ability to be storytellers, to be aesthetically appealing stuff, whether it's in a game or it's the technical things that you're building inside of your interactive environments or your explosions that we'll see in just a second. So yeah, but thank you so much, it was great.
Thank you.
All right, you better have a good talk, bro.
Dude, can you guys hear me? Is this working? Yeah. Okay, awesome. Yeah, so I missed the PowerPoint memo.
Okay.
I brought you poems. No, I'm kidding. These are just notes for later. So we'll leave this page up right now for now. I think how we're going to do this is I'm just going to let this play in the background while I just kind of yab at you for a little bit. I talk about my journey. I'll talk about how I kind of approached my demo reel and put it together because, well, we'll get into that in a second, why it's important. And then just I jotted down some little things that like might be nice to hear, or maybe insightful or helpful or whatever. Yeah, so hi, I'm Dakota. I'm the effects representative tonight, and yeah, a little different because I was gonna say something like pretty much everybody up here is like a generalist to some extent, and then I was like, oh, so am I, like because I'm very passionate about a lot of areas in CG. I love modeling, I love rendering, I love comp, I love pipeline, and of course I love dynamics because you kind of have to. And so like just like these guys up here, I'm just another steroid, or not steroid, generalist on steroids. Sorry, sorry, I'm just another steroid. No, great. So yeah, so like I said, I'm gonna just let this kind of play in the back, and then we'll talk about the reel here in a second. But my journey and kind of where I started, where I ended up, and where I am now. So I graduated from high school in 2018, and I had no experience whatsoever, but I like had this intrinsic knowledge that like I want to do VFX for film and TV, and I want to make movies to some extent, and I want to work on the post-production side, and I want to do the cool stuff, right? And so I did my little college search, right? And I found Gnomon, and it looked awesome because I mean we've all been to the website. That's where most of us started. And I was like, crap, I cannot get in. I have nothing to show. And it was true. So I ended up going to school elsewhere for a little bit. Nothing wrong with that school. It was just different than what I wanted. So I ended up finishing school there in a couple of years. I got a bachelor's in computer animation. But two things kind of were weighing on my mind. Or one thing was weighing on my mind, and then the other thing, yeah. So the first thing was I wasn't really making the art that I wanted to make. Like I said, not trying to bash the last school that I went to. It was great. I had a lot of great classes, a lot of great teachers. But like I was doing a lot of like motion graphic stuff. And like it was cool at the time. Like I felt intrigued by the work that I was doing because I was so engrossed in the process. But like the final product itself wasn't really what I wanted. So that's when that, and then as well as the onset of the pandemic, you know, right when I finished school, I was like, all right, let's go back to school. Let's get some more training and let's do what I want to do. So anyway, so I built my portfolio at that other school, and that allowed me to get into Gnomon. And then let's just really quick to like highlight my Gnomon experience. A couple highlights. One, I got to do a little itty bitty portion on The Voice in the Hollow, which is the Miguel and Tran film. That was so much fun. Literally, my segment is like 2 seconds, but it was a blast to work on. Second, I got to make a short film with Natalie, who is a really talented artist, one of my very good friends in the audience tonight. And then third, which I want to kind of talk about at the end here, is I got to meet a lot of you, and that was really important. But we'll get to that later. Okay, yeah, so I wrapped up Gnomon. I was in the visual effects concentration, if you didn't figure out at this point, in the 2-year program. And I'm currently working as a visual effects artist at DreamWorks in their feature film department, so it's a lot of fun. Sweet, all right, now we can watch the reel. And we don't have to like watch it and listen, whatever, because it's not super important. I kind of lack a little bit of storytelling in my work, but let me just tell you how I approached this, because yeah. Anyways, okay. So when I was building my reel, or when I was working on projects, I always wanted to make something like, well, first of all, it was something that it had to be something that I was interested in, but also something that I was really keeping in mind as I chose what I was going to make for the next 6 months. Was like I needed all the bread and butter effects in there, right? I needed something like fire, water. I needed some magic. The first project that I did there, I chose to do it because two reasons. One, I had never done an explosion before, so I wanted to give it a shot. And two, I also wanted to, I wanted experience dealing with, it went by so fast, so I'm sorry if I'm just kind of talking into the void about it, but it's a bunch of like plasma missiles, whatever, coming down. And one thing that I like in the design of this project, and the reason that I bring this up a lot is because this piece was what people talked about most when I did my interviews. They seemed to be really interested in it. But I wanted to practice like handling a lot of data and a lot of like a lot of different things going on here. So we have what, like 5 or 6 missiles going on here. So that's 5 or 6 explosions, 5 or 6 little RBD, whatever. So yeah. So when I was working on these projects, I was always trying to do something new, something that I hadn't done before, but I had a decent idea on how I was going to do it. And then, of course, like I said, had all the bread and butter effects in there. We had some vellum destruction, explosions, magic, right? And ultimately, I think that played a really, having like all this variety. And also, sorry, I had full CG shots. I also had some integration shots. These first 2 are integration shots. And I think that helped a lot. But so the really weird thing is I'm glad that this is playing at the time. So I make kids movies now, and that is like that was a demon hand or whatever rising out of the primordial goo or whatever. So it's really weird. So like obviously when the DreamWorks opportunity came around, obviously I was super ecstatic, but I kind of had to ask myself like why? Because none of this really screams DreamWorks, right? I do glitter now, by the way. So I had the opportunity to talk with the head of effects on my show, and that was really cool. First of all, that you get to interface with these people like that just so casually. But one of the I got the opportunity to ask him like why. Like obviously I'm gearing my reel towards like live action film, VFX, whatever. So what kind of made that stand out for you? And I think that this is just kind of what all these guys have already said, but presentation. He said one word, it was presentation. And so, yeah, I just kind of want to leave you with that. That's all I got on the real stuff. Sorry, thank you. Again, I'm so sorry. I think the lack of a PowerPoint, I think that really killed me here. But and also I'm last year, so like Max said, all the good advice has already been taken. But let me try and impart some closing stuff onto you, anyways. Okay, so something that these guys were saying, which is really important, is try and make like as many pieces, treat every piece like a demo reel piece. And I think that is very true. But also, I think it can sometimes be more beneficial to treat them as learning experiences earlier in the program, right? Like later, obviously, if you're in your demo reel, the piece you're making is going to be a demo reel piece, right? But just like treating it as a learning experience, learn what you need to, master the fundamentals, and get all that down. Okay, and that kind of ties into another thing that I think is really important that I think a lot of students do very often, which is kind of skimping out on the classes that they don't think are quite as important. There is something of value in every class here at Gnomon, and they are in your schedule for a reason, so do treat them as such. A lot of people, especially with like the lighting classes, like a lot of people like don't like to do those homework assignments, but they're like super important, and I grew so much every single week doing them. So if you're in those early terms, that's the advice I can impart onto you. This next piece of advice is, I'm speaking specifically from an effects point of view, but maybe you guys can get it. But so like I said, I now work in feature animation, and when I go to my desk every day, one thing that I learn is that I'm less of like a Houdini technician, which is something I had been training all throughout my last year in Gnomon, right? I like learned tops, cops, ROPs, chops, whatever, in Houdini, and that's important, and you have to do that, but before anything, like I am an animator now, and so if you're an effects artist, remember your animation principles. Don't blow it off. I remember being in like character animation 1, and being like, well, whatever, I'm doing explosions and stuff, whatever. It's not important, but it is, and it comes back to bite you. Which leads into my next thing, and this is something our good friend Misha is imparting on people all the time, is don't forget to be an artist, especially if you're more into the technical stuff. Because yeah, especially like these guys were saying, don't be a software monkey. The software will change, but the person operating it, that's what really makes it special. And then the last thing, right before I close out, sorry, we've all been here a while. Thank you all for listening to me ramble. But at the very beginning I mentioned that like one of the highlights of Gnomon was meeting all of you guys. I know a lot of you in this room, and more often than not, I've gotten the opportunity to sit down and like help you with your Houdini 1 final, right? Most of how I met a lot of you is no, literally, right? A lot of how I met like so many of you in this room is like somebody's like, oh dude, I'm really struggling with it. Like Houdini's due tomorrow, and like I don't know what to do. That Dakota kid, I think he knows Houdini. Hey, are you Dakota? Yeah. Do you know Houdini? Yeah. And that's how I met a lot of you, and that's awesome. But beyond that, I learned a lot in the classroom. I learned the most in the classroom, but also a very unique experience that I think I got because I got to see all of your guys' projects before they were done, when you guys were struggling, was I got to see all the different ways in which you guys approached either the same problem or completely different problems. And I learned so much from that, and I'm very grateful for that. So what I'm trying to say here is, if you're on campus, if you're a student, these people around you, they're your greatest assets, or one of your greatest assets, and be generous with your help. And don't be afraid to ask for help, and don't be afraid to give it. Don't hold any one thing that you learn close to your heart. Be willing to share it, because you will both be better off for it. So, thank you.
Awesome. I don't have anything to say because it was gorgeous.
I told you I prepared poetry.
Yeah, it was perfect. All right. So thank you guys all for everything, for coming in, taking the time away from your new jobs, which I know is stressful to be like, I've worked here for a week and I need a Monday night off so I can go talk to my friends. But no, it's really, really appreciated. I think there's a lot of great information out there. And I think there's a lot of people in here who probably needed to hear that. The people who don't think that they needed to hear that, they got it for free. But the people who needed it, it was awesome. And I think you guys are great for doing this, and I really appreciate you coming in. So we're gonna move to Q&A. I don't know how much time we had because like I built a big panel of awesome people, and David talks a lot. But we do have Q&A coming up. So they're gonna pass a microphone around and ask questions, and then you guys can field those. Yeah.
Mike's not. Oh, there we go. I'm over here, so if you have a question, you can
All
put
right.
your hand up right over there.
What do you think, like at your time at Gnomon, has been, like this is for everyone, like the best decision you've ever made, and what was the worst decision you've ever made? Relating to school.
Thank God.
I gotta think for a minute.
I mean, I'll start. Best decision, talk to your teachers. Do AMC. If they're willing to call you on like Discord or something. I learned the most from that out of almost anything I did at the school, and it is the reason I got as far as I did with my Unreal stuff. Worst decision? Earlier on, ignoring some classes and failing them. Do your homework. Even if it's a class you don't care about, that set me back a little too much.
I already preached Tran Ma. I'll preach Tran Ma again. I'll also preach Miguel again. I genuinely think that the reason that I was able to win as many best of terms as I did is because I met with Miguel term 5. If you start learning Nuke early and learn how to use it to make your stuff really pretty, take this next part with a grain of salt. You can be bad at a lot of things and really good at Nuke and still make really pretty stuff. So, learning Nuke early.
I can go next. I think the best decision for me, this might be a little bit tricky. I actually retake one of the class during my Gnomon. So I retake game environment class. I did term 10. I was literally talking to Max, can we take like individual classes along with bachelor program? He said yes. The reason I want to retake the class is because I actually did a pretty bad job during my first year and second year at Gnomon. So I feel like I need more environment pieces for my portfolio. So I'm retaking one of the class because I feel like I need someone to guide me. I need someone to push me. So this is definitely not for everybody. It's personal stuff, right? But I think it's good to know you have more options. You can retake classes. You have a second chance. So even if you fail the first one, there's always a chance you can make up on that. Speaking of the worst thing, I did not finish my demo reel when I graduated. It's kind of funny, like everybody here showed a really, really great, awesome demo reel, but not me. I actually did one last month, but it's like 5 months after I graduated. Like, why? Because I want the rookies. When I was interviewing with all the big companies, studios, I sent them my rookies entry. That's the only thing I did. But right now, I feel like this is not good. This is not good. I need something to show other people. I need a decent, reel for them. So I actually made one last month. Yes. So do not be an asshole like me. Yeah. So definitely, I think I'm repeating the same problem for the good and bad thing. There's always a second chance. There's always more chances for you. As a student, don't be afraid to, screw up everything. It's okay. There's a time for you, to correct things, even after you start to work like me. Like 5 months after working, I finished my demo reel. Max, if you wouldn't mind, would you mind pull up my demo reel?
Sure.
Go to like Kris 1, open up my ArtStation. Go to the About page. I did scroll down. Oh, that's all my fancy stuff. So yeah, I finally put my demo reel on my ArtStation, LinkedIn, all the social platform. It's worth it. Guys, it's worth it.
I'm going to play it muted in the background.
Of course.
Okay.
So I just, maybe I'll give the mic to other people. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm speaking too long.
No, you're
Sorry.
good.
I can go, but I mean, I think they already said it. My worst decision was not doing any AMCs. I kind of heard about it, but I'm like really shy, and I've always been at a big school, and this is my first time being at in classes with 10 or 20 people, so I kind of didn't really get to know the instructors too well in my early terms. But then I feel like once I got to demo reel, where it's very one-on-one, my artwork leveled up immensely, and my confidence just grew a lot more. I was always picking stuff because I didn't come from an art or game background, stuff that was kind of weird. In the classes that people were picking guns and weapons and everything, I made a cake. So it was just very bizarre things, but I feel like having that mentor, for me it was Miguel. He really allowed me to shine in my own way and just hone in on the stuff that I was already doing and just make it as top notch as I could make it for myself. So yeah, my best decision was taking that class, switching into trans class as well, and John Arlano, who I still reach out to crit my work. Just having those mentors is super important.
Thanks. I think best decision I made wasn't 1 point, but just throughout the program, being social. Because I know I'm shy too. It's harder for a lot of people to talk to people, but you're gonna be with the same people in all of your classes for the next 3 years. So they're your friends. If you like them or not, they're your friends. And every time you make a friend, it's not just someone you hang out with. It's someone you can reach out to and ask for help. Someone that can ask you for help. Someone that will get you a job someday. Someone that you will get a job someday. So just being nice to everyone and being friends with everyone is always the best advice. And then worst decision I made, I will preface with, I'm glad it happened. It was a really good experience. He knows what I'm talking about. But we did do a group project together. And it was a great experience, and I'm really happy with the result. I learned a lot from it, but you need to be careful with biting off more than you can chew, because we got it done. We totally got it done, but it was the most stressful thing I've ever done. So
Do it.
Just be. You should do it, but know your limits.
Oh, is it my turn? Did everybody already go? Okay, cool. So yeah, I'm gonna literally just piggyback off of everything these guys have already said. Worst thing I ever did was I did not take advantage of the AMCs at all. Teachers are very generous with their time, and they have a lot of really cool things to say, and you can learn a lot more outside of the classroom from them, and I didn't really take advantage of that. I was gonna say the same thing where like there was no one specific best thing, but I think that there is actually now that I think about it. The best thing that I did was finish my demo reel. And like I said, I'm just I know, I'm sorry, Kris. I'm sorry. No, I have an anecdote.
Shots fired.
I know. Kris, I'm sorry. Well,
It's okay.
obviously it worked out, right? But, okay, can I anecdote really fast? Yeah, sweet. Okay. So, so I was in the 2-year program. So 7th term is my second to last term. It's the end of my first demo reel term. And I had like 2 pieces finished. And at the end of that term, I ended up interviewing with a VFX house, right? And I got the job. I had signed all the paperwork and stuff like that, and I was ready to go. But I still had 1 more term left to go, and I still decided to, finish out. And it wasn't DreamWorks, by the way. And so I could have, just kind of blown off my demo reel and not worked on the last couple pieces that I did. But I did continue to work on them just because, I was passionate about it. I really wanted to. And I'm so glad that I did because, first of all, the last couple pieces that I made were the ones that came up the most in the interviews and the ones that interviewers wanted to talk about the most. But literally 2 days before I was supposed to start at the VFX house, they called me up and said that they didn't need me anymore. So I had a job secured for 3 months, and it was just gone like that. So had I not finished my demo reel, I would have been in trouble. So.
Interesting.
Cool. All right, next question.
Hello, everyone. Hi.
Hi.
So I'm finishing my first demo reel term on Friday. Anton just rescheduled it. I got that email for anyone, just a heads up. But what advice do you have for someone for just getting through that last 10 weeks, that last push of your second demo reel term?
Oh, you go first.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna go first really fast just because you guys say all the cool stuff first, and so I'm just gonna get it out there. Well, obviously, just pick something that you're like really excited to work on. For me, it's like picking a new technique that I've never done before. That's what kept me interested. But it could be like the subject matter. But also, like a lot of these guys have said in theirs, is maintaining that work-life balance, going out with your friends, doing things that aren't CG. That really got me through my last term. So you would know, you were there.
I think when you're in your last term, like that's your final chance to do what you haven't done yet. So at this point, like what your demo reel looks like more or less, but you're gonna look at it and think like it's pretty good, but I'm missing this one thing. So whatever that one thing is, do it. Like if you've done only like certain types of characters or environments, do the type that you haven't done yet. Just fill in the gap that you don't have.
Oh yeah, I can go next. Since you already finished your first demo reel class, I assume you already have a few pieces for demo reel, right? I think at this point you need to look for something that's not in your demo reel yet. For example, for my pieces, I had like 3 interior pieces. Like before that, I never had any like exterior pieces. That's my leg. So I was focusing on create one large exterior piece. That's for me. I think definitely looking for something that is lacking in your demo reel. I think a lot of people, when they do their demo reels, they are repeating the same stuff over and over again. I'm not saying it's bad, but you need to show the recruiters that you are capable of doing something else. You're good at the entire genre of your work. For example, for me, I'm good at environment, so I'm only gonna focusing on environment. I remember Anton asked me during my last demo reel session. I was asking him, hey, what do you think I can create for my last piece? And he said, oh, you got really good, foliage stuff. Maybe you should do like sci-fi hard surface stuff because that's the only thing you're missing. Then I was like, nah, that's not really my thing. But I see I'm lacking of exterior art. Can I focus on something like that? And he said, yes, that's a great idea. So looking for something that is missing in your portfolio, focusing on that, and also, just show your recruiters that you are capable of doing like different stuff. That's my advice. Yeah.
I have an incredibly unhelpful piece of advice. Sorry. I will follow up with something more helpful, I promise. Have work ready before your final demo reel. So then when you get to your final demo reel, you don't feel so worried about it. I know in your case, that's probably not super helpful.
Just go back in time.
Yeah, go back in time, go back a few terms, make some stuff, and then go back, and you'll be good to go. If you are going into your final demo reel term, I don't want to disagree with Kris because I agree, but make sure that you're not picking something that you're missing that you're missing because you don't want to do. If you pick something that you are really excited about, that is just something that seems fun, it will be better in the end. And you can slip things in that you didn't have already, but make sure that it's fun, and then you'll be excited about it and it won't feel like work anymore.
I would say start on your website before you get into your final demo reel because A, it's a class, so you got to do it anyway. B, it goes hand in hand with your demo reel. And C, it'll keep you really motivated to keep making stuff because you can like look back on all your projects and all the breakdowns and be like, dang, I made all this stuff and I can just keep going and basically finish strong. So I feel like if you just remind yourself of how far you came, then it'll carry you through the end.
I mean, I think my advice for that and how I did it is very specific to like technical art and like making games. But for me, it was like largely about choosing something that was a fun challenge for me. At the start of each of the demo reel terms, I chose a game concept that I thought was cool and wrote down a bunch of gameplay mechanics I wanted. And the fun thing about making games was I would do like a week of work, have a new gameplay mechanic, and then I could play with it, and my friends could play with it, and everyone go, ooh, the thing moves, you can pick it up. And that like kept me going through all of it, because every week there was like, oh, there's more of this, you can play more of it, there's more things, and it was a fun challenge to accomplish those things every week. So just set cool goals that are fun for you. Yeah.
Cool. Another question?
Yeah, we actually got one from the interwebs. Sorry, you have to say it like that. That's patented that way. How late into your college career did you notice a significant improvement in your work? And what do you think was the cause? I know a couple of you are going to say Miguel and Tran. But, you know, just flex around it. See if there's something else that you can pick out from that.
Intro to Maya, like, because intro to, like, I'm not even kidding, because you're in your, like, foundation classes where you're doing, like, perspective and whatever, which is cool, but it's usually not what we're here for as 3D artists. It's very useful, and you should take it seriously. But Intro to Maya is, like, the first class where it's like, okay, now you get to make a fully finished 3D environment to the highest standard you can. So for me, Intro to Maya was the first, like, oh, I get to go all out and, like, really go hard with this. And then after that, like, every kind of class like that where you're making a finished piece, I felt that way, like, oh, I get to go hard with this and, like, do all I can. So for me, Intro to Maya.
I'm going to go Hard Surface 2, which is term 4 of the DP program, and it's with Max. And I feel like Hard Surface 2, you realize like you've been modeling everything wrong your entire like Gnomon career up to that point. But then just like the learning curve is super steep, and you just realize like you can make anything, and you realize how basically like the world works because you're starting to model how things should be made in real life.
I'm going to be controversial and say it was like literally at the end. It was like term 9 or 10. Because I was enjoying Gnomon before, but I hadn't hit that class where I was like, this is it. I want to hyper-focus on this and make this my career. But then I took Game Creation 3 and 4, and I like, it just like snapped together, and I was like, cool. I feel cool now. I'm making cool things, and I really, really care about it, and I'm now going to do this for all of Demo Reel. So, yeah.
Well, I think it would be safe to say, I'll let you go, but it's safe to say that like it's a personal thing, right? Like, because you're baby stepping through, and I know it's not the question that the person on the internet, which is a place I've heard of, I know it's not what their real question is, right? But I think the thing is like it's kind of like a baby step mentality. It's like as long as you're making shit, and as long as you're learning stuff, and as long as you're growing, then you never really have a moment, like a particular moment where everything is great, because just getting better and being able to do things that you were never able to do before is the most important part of that journey, right? We're always looking like, when will you be finally good? Any of you. Like, you all have jobs, you all have great reels, you've all won awards, you're all fantastic, but when will you be happy with your journey? No, seriously, because the answer is never, because the reason why you are where you're at is because you want to keep going and you want to keep creating, and that's the reality of everybody on this. So when was the time where everything like the switch flipped? Like, because you wouldn't have been able to do shit in Hard Surface 2 right? Without everything that came before, and you wouldn't have done shit in Intro to Maya without all the painting and all the the other stuff that brought you there. So you can look back at maybe one moment where you had a lot of fun, but it's a fucking avalanche of. That's right, internet. You can say that on the internet. I looked into the eyes of New Jersey and I was like, how do we make this wrap it up? But anyway, if you want to add something to it, but yeah, don't make arbitrary moments in your life, I guess, where you're expecting everything to change. Just like grow, enjoy, take one step and try to be better, and eventually you'll look back and be like, damn, I'm good. F word.
No, I got nothing to add because you just said don't pick an arbitrary point, and I was just about to pick an arbitrary point, so we're good. No, it's good, it's good.
Term 7, week 3, about 4:45 in the morning. I looked into the node editor in Houdini and I saw a collapse. I saw a collapse function and I was like, shit, this is it for me.
That was it.
All right, we got another question?
I have a question here. Hi. So now that you got a job, what turned out to be easier than you think it would be, and what is harder than you think it would be?
Yeah, so I kind of talked about this in my thing, but like at school, the hard part was Houdini, and now at job, the easy part is Houdini, and the hard part is being an artist, and remembering all those things that make a pretty image, right? Because it's me and a bunch of people that have been at DreamWorks before DreamWorks was DreamWorks, so yeah.
Nobody has anything to add. Next question.
I would say work.
Cut him off.
Yeah, okay, cool. I'd say workload is so much easier than I was expecting it to be. I know it's not going to stay this way, but I've been at DreamWorks for about a month and a half now, and I have yet to have a deadline on anything, and it feels really weird.
Well, you don't have deadlines?
Not yet.
Oof.
That's just a him thing. I have deadlines.
I will say we're early in production, but it feels weird. I think even when it does ramp up, it will continue to feel less hectic and chaotic than Gnomon life. So feel comfort in that.
Okay, so we got another question from the chat, but I'm also supposed to let y'all know some things. Personal shout out from David Ferrero. Wanted to give Kris big thanks for giving him advice on his portfolio.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. We're all included in that. We all know what's going on. Don't worry. And Miguel and Tran are in the chat. So keeping tabs on all the terrible things you've been saying about them. So I know for some of you this is different than others because Kris, you obviously admitted that you sent in your rookies and that's how you got your job. But for the rest of you, do you find that having more pieces or less pieces in your portfolio is better? The person in the chat was asking, should you have as much as possible, or do you like fine tune it? I think David's portfolio and Ethan's is pretty stacked. Your reels are pretty stacked.
Well, I think every time that I've asked any professional about this like exact question, they always say less is more. They always say if you have 2 phenomenal pieces, it's better than 5 good pieces. I think always quality over quantity. If you only have 2 good pieces, only show 2 good pieces. If you have 2 good pieces and an okay piece, you have 2 pieces.
I don't think there's anything to add to that. I don't think anybody's going to dissent and go the opposite way and be like, hundreds of shitty pieces of art. That's the way to do it. Just bombard them with things.
I'll add one thing. Say you have, 6 pieces, and you feel really good about all of them, and 2 of them are stylized animated scenes, and the other 4 are scary, grungy hallways, and you're applying for DreamWorks. Maybe don't include all those scary, grungy hallways.
Worked out for me.
Beat that.
Never mind.
Yeah, I guess the caveat is unless you're Dakota.
Well, you could piggyback that too, where it's like it's okay to have more than one persona, right? Like you can be the look dev person and the environment artist. Like you don't have to be one or the other. So if you have work that's great, you can have the I'm this to you, but I can also be this to you type of thing. You don't have to be an all-in-one demo reel.
Yeah, you can have multiple reels too. Like we both have on our website like a drop down with like this is my lighting reel, this is my generalist reel, because different pieces are different needs.
I mean, even Caleb's reel is like beautiful. If he doesn't like turn it into 45 minutes of like all the awesome shit he does, and he just like frames it and says this is the art that I made, it holds up as an environment artist reel without a doubt. But that's not what Caleb wants to do. He wants to make you pick up sticks and build a house for a slug.
Yeah.
I have nothing to add there.
All right, any more questions?
I have one final question, and then we can wrap it up. I like to ask this question just to anybody that's on the streams. Tran Ma actually has mentioned multiple times that when she's working on stuff, she doesn't even listen to music. She has noise-canceling headphones and just likes to be in that zone. That's how she functions. Out of the six of you, what do you listen to when you're working? What's your flow? Is it complete silence? Is it Ghibli soundtracks? Is it all anime OPs? What is it? I gotta know.
I can go. Go ahead. I'll be honest, I kind of like burnt myself out of music at Gnomon. Like I reached 125,000 minutes of listening. Like I was like a top 1% Spotify user. It's like pretty embarrassing. So now I actually don't listen to anything either, or I'll put on like TV just for some kind of like noise, white noise, whatnot. But yeah.
Kind of same. I have collected a psychopathic amount of music because like if I'm doing a full day, I have like 200 separate playlists of every mood I could be in while working, and I just nonstop do that. Or listen to a lot of dumb YouTube video essays and pretend I'm intelligent and learning something.
That's pretty funny because I watch anime all the time while I'm working. So even at work. So when I was at Gnomon, I'm same as those people. I'm listening to music like hundreds of times, and also I'm watching anime, if that's okay. I mean, after I got to work, I stopped doing that because I feel like, maybe it's not legit. But one day, my lead came up to me. It's like, hey, you need to chill. Maybe watch YouTube videos, where you work. So that's the time. I'm picking up my old stuff. So I'm watching anime while working right now. I think it's really depends on personal preferences, right? Some people prefer, working, with other like noises, music, but some people like, complete silence. I think it really depends on your personal choices. But if you wouldn't mind, just give it a try. Maybe you find out like other way suits you better. So don't hesitate to try different stuff. Yeah.
Wait, can I add something on that? On the topic of it depending. Also, an important thing that I have learned is I used to try to listen to music when blueprinting and coding, and then everything would be a mess and nothing worked because I was listening to words instead of coding correctly. I feel like you could mindlessly zone out when doing UVs or something because you've done it a million times, but I learned to stop playing music when I'm doing important things.
I think you need to stop doing that if you require like brain work stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you do something that does not need brain work, for example, like doing UV stuff, yeah, pull up music. That's what Trent told us before doing texture into class. Yeah.
I just listened to a perpetual high-pitched squeal.
Oh wow.
That's called tinnitus.
I just listen to David whistling because we live together and I have to hear it every day. No, I'm kidding. I listen to musicals because I need to listen to something that is like semi-focus requiring, because if it's just like shuffle, I get distracted and I walk away. And if it's like a TV show, I get distracted and I watch it. But musicals are like a good amount of like, I have to listen to it all the way through, but I'm like half listening to it. So something that's like semi-attention requiring to keep me focused.
Yeah, and I just hit shuffle.
Cool.
All right, is that it? It's never it.
Oh, God. Hi, I'm Kelly. So we had some advice for some of the later terms, but I'm a term 2 student. I am so scared for next term because it's like all the intro stuff, and it's like I already have a little bit of 3D experience, but I'm just terrified because all the stories of people like, this is my 5th all-nighter and blah, blah, blah. Do you have any advice on like what you would do differently in like those intro classes for texturing and Maya and blah, blah, blah?
I think just don't try to go through it alone. I feel like it's not that scary. Like you'll be fine. But like, I feel like intro to Maya, I had friends in my class, and we would all be in the lab together while we're working, and we'd all be confused, but we're confused together. So just having friends that you're going through it with makes it a lot easier. If you're doing it alone, it's harder. So just be friends with the people in your classes, and don't try to do everything alone.
Yeah, and also like if you're worried about like the all-nighter part, like only work at school because like the labs close at 1, so like you gotta go home at some point, which is like because I was pulling all-nighters all the time like my first year at Gnomon because it was online, so like I could just go to my office and stay there for 24 hours. But then we come back to campus and the labs close at 1, so I get a little bit of sleep.
I have semi-different experience to those two because my first 2 terms were in person, and then term 3 was online, and I didn't really get super close with anybody yet, and I'd never done 3D before, so you're ahead of me. You're gonna be fine. It's super scary though. It's super scary. I remember my first Intro to Maya class with Stephen McClure ending,
Yep.
and I walked away like this.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a lot. But it's fine. You're gonna be fine. Don't be too afraid. Just pay attention. And I don't know who your teacher will be, but if it goes fast, I personally find that watching and paying attention sometimes helps more than trying to take notes or follow along, because when I take notes, I miss what's happening while I'm taking the notes. And if I'm following along, I miss what's happening while I'm trying to copy what just happened. So just pay attention, and you're gonna be fine. Don't worry about it.
McCrory, yeah.
You're in good hands.
Yeah, you're good. If you're a little bit stressed out, you can always reach out to AMC. Like, they are super, super friendly. They are really, really nice. You can learn like a lot of new stuff during the session. So definitely reach out to AMC and do not, overstress yourself. Everything's gonna be okay. Like, we've all been there before, so don't worry about that. You're good.
And don't be sorry, but don't be afraid to reach out to upper term students too. Like if you're in the lab with someone and they look like they know what they're doing, they do, and they can help you. So just don't. Everyone's nice here. Just don't be afraid to ask someone for help.
I would say like try a planner, because if you write something down, it helps you remember. And try to like come up with a weekly schedule, because I feel like a lot of these classes you don't have anything due until the final. So if you kind of like plan and aim to have like an alpha pass by the midterm, then even if you don't hit it, you'll be in a good spot.
Everyone said everything I did already. Y'all did good.
I'll add one thing to that, and that is, obviously use the school support system, use your classmates. Those are all super important things. But the other thing too is with the planner thing, schedule your time as close to your classes as possible. One of the things I see is one of the biggest hurdles for people that I'm working with is the classes on Wednesday that were done at noon or 12:45 or 1:15, depending on which week it is and how slow I got through my lecture materials. And then they hit me up on like the next Monday and they're like, hey, I'm having a hard time with what you did. And it's like, well, we had Wednesday and Thursday and Friday and Saturday and Sunday to like work on that stuff. Like, why is it Monday when you're trying to lock it in? So my thing is like, do the planner thing, but also if your class is Wednesday morning, find 3 hours or an hour or 2 hours after the class to kind of like lock in a little bit of the information you just learned. Because after 2 or 3 more classes, you're not gonna remember what happened in my class on Wednesday morning. You just had texturing, you just had animation, you just had art history, and now you're sitting there going like, okay, what did he say again? So do it as soon as you can after the point. And then the last one is mental game that these guys have been talking about all night, and that is, it's not the end of the world, right? Just try your best. Like, don't compare yourself to everybody else. Don't worry about if your artwork is fantastic. If you're giving it your all and you're creating stuff, you don't need to do all-nighters. You just go in there and do what you can, learn the material, don't get frustrated by it. Like, I suck at this, cool, I'm gonna try it again. This chair looks like shit, I'm gonna make another chair. Like, it's not a big deal, you're learning it. Nobody expects you to do great stuff, we just expect you to do it. So don't get paralysis and expect that you should be doing something great right out of the gates. Just do it, let it suck. Ask yourself what you could have done different, approach it a different way, ask a question to a friend, ask a question to AMC, but don't sit there and not do it and then go, this is hard, I don't get it, someone teach me, right? Like, do it, just fuck it up, internet. Just do that, just make the mistakes and try, and that's the biggest thing that any of you guys are gonna take from this, from my advice. These guys had great stuff, but from what I've set up here, just do it, literally just try. Who cares if it looks like shit? Like, really, who cares? It's just a homework assignment. You're gonna do better next week. You're gonna do better the next day. David's gonna have a cool trick in Nuke where you can just not have to texture your geometry.
True.
Chris is gonna show you how to render it in, Unreal 5 and 6, and 6 isn't even out yet. So you'll be fine. But just don't put unrealistic expectations on yourself to know it before you know it, or that you should be a god 5 minutes after someone told you something.
I want to really accentuate what Max said about doing your work right after class. That's really smart for everybody, not just you, not just early terms. Do it right after class because A, you'll remember it best right then, and B, you'll be done so fast. Like my last couple terms, I didn't stay up till because I would just do it early. And I wouldn't even wake up early. I would just do it right after class, and it was good to go. And if you do that all the time, life will feel easier.
All right, we done? Because I'm done. We good?
Yeah, it seems like it.
All right. Well, thank you guys all for coming out. Thank you guys for bringing all this knowledge and experience and good vibes to everybody out there. Hopefully everybody enjoyed it and it was cool. Maybe someday if you guys are half as good as them, we'll have you on stage. But we'll see. I know a lot of you guys. And it's not really high hopes here. But no, seriously, I'm kidding. You're all great. You're all fantastic. No, but thank you guys again for coming out and being so awesome and putting all this together and sharing your guys' journey. So a round of applause.
Thank you guys for having us.
Dakota.